Matt, some big news, some relatively big news, not that your face or your personality will ever show anything different.
No.
It's coming to an end, forced to retire through injury. How are you feeling?
It's been a bit strange. Obviously, Achilles and ankle issue that's not recovered as hoped. So it's been strange. I've known for probably a couple of months now, and it's just a little bit strange. This is all I've ever known since I left school at 18, and it's an amazing time doing what I love doing. But it's the next chapter, hopefully as exciting. We'll wait and see.
Talk about 18, because you really did get thrust onto the scene very young. I mean, you signed with Newcastle before you finished your A-levels. Yeah. Take us back to that time. Did you have any more emotions than you have these days back then? Were you a little bit more excited?
I think I probably had the emotions beaten out of me by that first 6 months. I played my first game for Newcastle when I was still at school, which was amazing. I used to go and watch them with my dad growing up as a kid, and then to kind of finally get a chance to be a professional rugby player. I remember I think I got £200 or something for a match appearance, and I thought I was rolling in it. So, and then to 6 months later to be playing in a full-blown international at Millennium Stadium, which is one of the best stadiums in the world to play in. I was very fortunate. Obviously, that didn't necessarily go to plan, but it was a pretty amazing experience, amazing time to be playing with and against people I'd grown up watching for so long.
Do you remember that day when because you played your first test the day before you turned 19?
Yes.
Do you remember the day you got the call to say you're an 18-year-old and you're about to run out against Gavin Henson and alongside some of the biggest names to play for England?
I remember we were training at Loughborough. I think it was the first year they had almost an EPS elite player squad was that year, so I was excited obviously to be involved in that. I don't remember a huge amount about the actual day itself. It's probably removed from my memory for self-preservation, but just remember the build-up during the week, and it was a weird one really, because up to that point I hadn't really had any huge setbacks. I'd worked really hard at school to make that transition across to being professional, and worked hard at Newcastle, and that had led to that England call-up, and then it was like, this isn't necessarily how it's supposed to go. Working my nuts off, and it's not supposed to necessarily have panned out like this, but I wouldn't necessarily change it a huge amount. I don't think it was a good lesson to learn by, and I was very fortunate. I had a good group of friends, really strong family, some good mentors up at Newcastle to help me through it. And I think if it had gone how it had gone, I wouldn't have necessarily been able to go and play on the Severn circuit, which I got the opportunity to do, to travel the world and be involved on the Severn circuit, which is just amazing. I say, as a 19-year-old lad, to be able to go around and play in those tournaments with the players that we did at the time. There was the Kerrs, the Strattles, the Fodens, the Varndels, to Hong Kong and Commonwealth Games and those sorts of things. It might not have panned out like that, so I try to be philosophical about it.
What did you take from Sevens? Obviously you spent a little while playing the game, and you're showing your age a bit by naming those blokes.
Oh no, yeah.
But what did you take from Sevens? Because obviously you came back, and I mean, within 18 months you were back in the England squad, yeah. So obviously something had worked for you.
I think it's just a good way of getting back on the horse almost. There's less pressure. You're playing in big stadiums in front of loads of people, and there is a pressure there to perform, but it's not necessarily the same as the Six Nations, and I was probably naive to that. The expectation around that Six Nations, and what was kind of expected of you playing in that, and to go away on the Sevens, where it's not necessarily as much about the tactical side of thing, although that's probably changed, but certainly at that point it was just relied on your physiology, and it was a good way to express yourself. It was about running fast, that one-on-one competition, beating people, and actually just going out and enjoying yourself. It was just a nice way of kind of getting back on the horse, is the best way I can put it.
All of this, and you're not even 20 years old. and then you come back to Newcastle, and obviously there's some relatively big names in that Newcastle team at the time. What was it like playing alongside guys like Johnny and learning from guys like Johnny as a young kid?
I got an opportunity to train with Johnny before I signed there. I think it's probably a sweetener trying to get me to sign there, but and just to see his, this was post the World Cup, just to see his dedication and the way he kind of just applied himself was, as a young guy, you seen the success he had and the hard work he put in, and you just wanted to emulate that. So, and he was a great guy. Or is a great guy, just as someone to bounce ideas off. To if you had sort of problems for me, because he'd obviously gone through something similar, been capped very early. We had guys like Mat Tait there as well, a good old Aussie like yourself, who was just someone that, I mean, all that he'd achieved in the game, and he was there just to impart his knowledge to the younger guys, which is something I hope I've been able to do throughout my career when required. And guys like that setting the example. It's you want to go out and just do well and do as well as you can, basically.
Obviously, you then made the move to Sale. What was the decision behind that, or what was the thinking originally? Because it would have been hard for you to leave Newcastle.
Yeah. I think at the time there was the squad they had at Sale was ridiculous, really. So you got McAllister's, Lamont, Chabal, Bruno, Sheridan. I think Dwayne Peel signed the same time as me. There's a financial element to it as well. Shying away from that as a motivator at certain times. And the coach at the time, John Fletcher, who I was very close to, really, really good coach. He did an amazing job with England 18s. He lost his job as first team coach, and just felt it was a good time to move. Loved my time in the Northwest. That first year, again, so I just enjoyed it. I think I had a couple of injuries. The second year at Sale, a lot of those big names left to pastures new, so quite a few went to France. McAllister went to Toulouse, I think, and Juan Lobe went to Toulon. Philippe Saint-André left. So that second year was a struggle. I think we flirted with relegation, so it was a different kind of expectation, a different challenge. But I loved my time in the Northwest. Got a great deal of affection for Manchester as a city.
And then obviously the opportunity comes to join Leicester Tigers, which when you were growing up, or even when you made your debut, there was no bigger club probably in world rugby. For you, the opportunity to join Leicester, obviously, as you said, financial, just good time of the career really, but also to become a Tigers player?
Yeah, it was, absolutely. I want to say fortunately, the experience of playing at Welford Road as a host, but I'm trying to think back through the results, there wasn't anything particularly fortunate about it. It's actually my first game after the Wales debut was against Leicester here for Newcastle, and we made the mistake of scoring first, I think, and then conceded 85 unanswered points, and my opposite man on the day, Ollie Smith, got man of the match, so that was an interesting couple of weeks. I should remember sitting in the toilets down there crying as a 19-year-old, thinking it's not supposed to be like this.
Yeah.
But the support here has always been amazing, and that was a big pull in wanting to be part of the history of this place, and some of the players that were here at the time, and some of my good friends, Jeff Parling, Ben Woods, Toby Floods, had made the move from Newcastle down and spoke really highly of it. So I wanted to be part of it, and 8 years later I'm here.